That one glorious word represents more than just the geography between the Sabine and the Rio Grande. It represents a unique idea and way of life. A life of rugged individualism, proud self-reliance, gritty toughness, and fierce independence. That is what made Texas, and that is what will save her again. Howdy, folks. Sam Houston here. I want to thank you for tuning into the Feed Bandit podcast. Feed Bandit is the Texas first outdoors brand built by rabid Texans, for rabid Texans, and all those who aim to be one someday. We unapologetically promote the ideals that shape our Texas pride and Texas first patriotism through our love of hunting, the outdoors, and the gear and apparel we create. Texas, above all else, preserve the tradition, protect the legacy. Check us out at feedbandit.com. And to repeat that great rallying cry from a former colleague of mine, liberty or death. Now, enough of my talking. Here are a couple of bandits that love Texas as much as I do. Enjoy.
All right, so the last time we visited, we were talking predator control, and I was spinning a yarn, if you will, about my first solo bobcat hunt. Well, predator hunt, right? Remember, it was at Honeymoon. I was the bobcat that snuck up on me, taught me everything I know about predator hunting in about an hour. It was crazy. So needless to say, after I got that experience in my system, and it was a bug I could not shake. In fact, for the foreseeable future, when we would go to the deer lease, it was kind of my goal to get my deer out of the way, right? So that I could actually try to go predator hunting. But of course, that's what you wanted to do. You wanted to get your deer out of the way, and then you can go just play around. Okay. And, of course, I'd beg and plead my dad, hey, come pick me up early on Friday so we can hit the road and make the evening hunt. Because, you talk about something great, right? Getting that deer down on Friday and then having, Saturday morning, Saturday night, and then Sunday morning to hunt predators. Or do whatever. That was the goal. Well, a lot of times it doesn't work out that way, but naturally you made the best the time you could when you had it. So, fast forward, probably a year or so. And really my next hunt, it was kind of that I really, really remember. In fact, I've got a constant reminder of the success of this hunt, every time I go to Rancho Bandito, because the quote unquote trophy is still there. And it's super special to me. And I tell you, that's kind of the beauty of taxidermist work. People say, I've got a little cold. You'll have to excuse me. I'm going to be coughing a lot. But, people always say, oh, you're putting heads on the wall. You killer. No, listen. You put the head on the wall, okay, or the rug on the floor, or the feathers on the whatever, or the fish on the wall, to celebrate the life of that animal. But not only that, but the experience around the hunt, man. That's what you do. It's the food in your belly and the memories in your brain. That's what hunting is about. So this particular hunt, we were hunting the blind we like to refer to as the Rembert blind, and the Rembert blind was on a part of this ranch, and we hunted Throckmorton that was on the West Hill. We like to call it. This was a pretty big hill. Okay. It was very hill country-ish, right? But nothing, of course, like, the Trans-Pecos, but there's definitely some undulation in there. And up on top of this, the West Hill was some great property. And this particular area that we hunted was a real good mesquite flat. A little, thinking about it now, it was a little wide open, actually. And I'm... now behind the feeder, there was a little drop off that kind of went into a good little shelter belt, but as I recall, the feeder was kind of isolated, and I remember it being an extremely popular deer location. But and I know you could see forever. Okay, uh, that was one of the primary reasons why we predator hunted that blind. Because man, like I say, you could just see forever. But deer hunting wise, I actually ended up killing my second deer there, which is a great story unto itself. But it was kind of thinking about it now, probably not the best of locations. But on this particular hunt, this was November. I'm gonna say November-ish, and my good buddy Eric and I, which is really, really funny thinking about it now because, we were both big kids but of course, we were up in this, what I like to refer to as a South Texas tower stand. Okay. So it's got the straight vertical climb, all the way up, 10, 15, 20 feet in the air into a little box that, the plywood floor is probably from the 60s, and it has not been taken care of, and the windows are busted out. And this particular blind met all those characteristics. Of course, it was a straight vertical climb up these stairs with a, with a high-powered rifle. Just all kinds of problems, that could potentially happen with that. But, not to mention the fact that floor was pretty rickety. But Eric and I managed to get in there. Not only do we manage to get in there with both of our rifles, but we were also able to get in there with the big tape deck, right? The big tape deck with the it dropped the speaker out of there, so on and so forth. So my dad, I finally recall, my dad was kind of down the road in our Jeep, and he was just sitting there having a couple of cocktails while he was waiting on us, which was kind of cool. So he actually he bought a little CO2 pellet gun, and I remember he was sitting there planking. If any quail was to walk by, he was going to take a shot at them. So everybody was pretty happy. That particular day, we did have a deer come in. It was an 8-point, and I recall I was like, man, this is going to be really interesting. When we hit play on that call, I mean, this thing's going to scare the hell out of them. Of course, to us, the sound of a dying cottontail is just, it's terrifying. I mean, God, listen to this damn thing, it's the ring, ring, and it is loud, and it is annoying, and it is not something you can really kind of get out of your head. So I was real surprised when we hit that play button, that buck, I mean, he shot up and looked at us, right? I mean, looked at the call rather. He was like, whoa, what the hell was that? Okay. So, he was very bothered by that, naturally, but eventually it just kind of didn't bother him anymore, and he just kind of went back to feeding. And I think both Eric and I were very surprised by that. What's also kind of crazy about this is the fact that I remember this thing like it was yesterday, and I'm 44 now, and this was probably when we were 13 years old, something like that. So that just shows you how important these hunting memories are. How that they really never leave your head. Mm-hmm. So I said to myself, and I probably made a comment to Eric. I said, "Man, well, this is going to be great because if he and I, with our relative teenage eyes, don't see a coyote or a bobcat or something coming hauling butt down the road at us, hopefully he will." And I go, "This is perfect." Of course, and I was thinking back to that mockingbird that was on top of that blind when I called in that bobcat, and he let me know that, hey man, there's a bobcat right behind you, So I was like, well, this will be great. The deer will spook, and we're gonna be in great shape. So I remember pressing play on the call, and I specifically went there again because of the view, but the wind was favorable, it was in our face, and again, I was really itching for a coyote, really itching for one. And, we hit play. And again, as I said, in the first one of these we did when we talked about predator hunting, I said within 20 minutes or so, and really, God, sooner than that, man, especially out there in that country, if there's a coyote within earshot, excuse me, and that wind is right, they're going to be right in your lap instantly. Okay. I mean, they are constantly on the move, looking for food. So they are going to jump all over it. So, I distinctly remember 15, 20 minutes going by and thinking, okay, well, crap, here we go. And I remember thinking to myself, well, this is, this is probably not the best habitat, really for a bobcat, and only because of the fact that, it is so open, right? And I know that cats like to be kind of sneaky and, sneak up on their prey, so on and so forth. I got to admit, I had my rifle up and I was ready to go for coyotes, and I kind of like, well, you know what, let's give it a whirl. And tape played on. What, at 30 minutes, you got to flip the tape. Okay. So I flipped the tape and pressed play again. And then within a few minutes of that, I noticed something up behind the feeder, kind of along what was actually along the west fence line. And sure enough, there's Bobcat. Okay, and I can see him with my naked eyes. I'm like, oh man, this is crazy. And I'm thinking, oh God. And I remember Eric, we were looking at him, and I remember saying to myself, God, man, he has got a long way to go. And I remember thinking to myself with the Bobcat that I had the experience with earlier, that cat kind of took forever to get to that call, and he was 10 feet from, or 10 feet, 20 feet from where we were hunting, where the call was. Well, this time he's 100 yards. So I remember saying to myself, oh shit, this could take an hour for this damn thing to get there. Well, I tell you what, this particular cat decided to scrap all that was sacred in his mind and all that he's been taught, and he ran straight for the call. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, here he comes. I got my gun up, and it was 22-250. I got my gun up, and I remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this is going to happen pretty quick. Well, the buck sees him. And when the buck sees him, I talk about if I could capture images from my mind and print them, this would be a print that I could sell, to virtually any hunter, because this buck and this bobcat, they kind of squared off at each other. Okay. And this was not a huge cat. Okay. We're not talking a mid-story lion here, right? I've got this. I was able to shoot this cat. Spoiler alert there, but I've got his mount or his rug at the house, and he was a smaller cat, but nonetheless, a bobcat. I watched him and this buck just kind of, the cat was pawing at him, and the buck was kind of pointing his antlers at him and kind of charging, not charging him, but moving his head down, taking a step towards him. It was really, really a cool thing. And so I just remember that being just a really, really cool experience. Well, I got a little too absorbed in what was going on, and then it was kind of lost on me on the fact that, oh shoot, man, the second that they're done fighting, this cat's gonna be right at that call. And they get to that call and see this is a speaker and not a bunny, we could be in big trouble. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And that cat got to that speaker, and thankfully I was able to put one in him pretty quick. But that was it, man. That was my first bobcat, and what an experience. And of course, boy, after you've had that experience, you really get bit by the bug. Fast forward sometime later, I recall my same guy, Eric, and I, we said to ourselves, let's try this. Let's try a little midday call. Let's just try to do this, but let's try to do this in the middle of the day. It was cold. Hunting deer season, right? So we at the cabin, little shack we had there in Throckmorton, we had about a 20-acre lake out in front of us. Okay, and again, it's just thick as thieves, huge old growth. If there is such a thing, and I consider them to be old growth mesquite and mesquite trees out there. And kind of above the tank was a cleared out area where we had put a little box blind made out of plywood and 2x4s. And we had just a little derelict feeder over there that we'd put corn in every once in a while. Nothing special. And, and so I said to Eric, I said, what the hell? Let's go. The dads were taking their naps, which is when we would go out and we would play, me and the younger guys. And so Eric and I make the haunch across the lake there, and we get the call set up. And I don't recall if we had masks on and gloves on. I know we made that a regular habit. I would sure think we would have at that particular time, but we get that call set up, and I don't think he or I were real confident that we were going to be able to call anything in, but we should, hey, what the hell? Let's give it a shot. So kind of the same thing, right? Within 20 minutes pass, we don't see anything. And then I think you'll probably right at almost the tape flipping time. If not, it actually may have been at the tape flipping time. We had a big bobcat show up or right in front of us. And when I say show up right in front of us, I mean, as I recall, it's funny, I can still kind of see him in my head. I think he was maybe 20 yards away from us. And so to the point where he was way too close, right? I mean, way too close. And I recall Eric trying to get he had the gun up, okay, which that's what we're supposed to do, right? But, he would have had to have had the gun mount on his shoulder. And truthfully, I don't even know if he could have pulled the safety. That's how close this guy was. But unfortunately, the cat did see him, and he did bolt. We did not get a shot, but man, what an experience. Okay. And again, especially to see a bobcat that close. Okay. That, and from a ground blind too, right? I recall this being a big cat. And, now that I think about it, I never really put two and two together now that we're talking about. But again, the camp house, that we had, was on top of this tank dam. And again, it kind of rolled into the tank dam. And then below that, it kind of rolled off into more thick country. And there were times where we would come back, from evening hunts, and our meat would be chewed on. We knew we had a cat that was, jumping on these carcasses. And actually, Eric's father and Eric's brother at the time had come by and actually busted a bobcat doing exactly that. They actually came home. They actually shot something, I believe. Came home just a little early, and sure enough, they saw a big old cat on there. And I recall Woody Jr. Put a 308 into that big cat. And of course, it was all celebratory and everybody was having fun. That's when everybody realized that had Woody Jr. been a bad shot, which he was not, and had that cat been any lower, which it was not, thank God, it would have hit this massive silver propane tank that was just to the right of the cleaning station. So, of course, that would have taken care of the house and any of the occupants in said house, which there was none. But that thankfully did not happen. But again, the point of these stories right here are all, just amazing how they stick with you over the years, and how I can remember them just as clear as the day, that they happened. So, again, hey man, you still got time. It's not turkey season yet. Get those protein feeders out there. Go out there and do a little predator control, man. A lot of people actually don't believe that, there's a lot of people that not unknowingly, but think, bobcats are, are they endangered? There just can't be that many of them because I just don't see that many of them. Are you kidding me? That's how they make their living. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we wouldn't have any Navy SEALs if they were walking around in flip-flops, with sunscreen on, right? So they make their living. They're covert, they're quiet, they're secretive. They don't want you to know they're there. That's how they get their job done. So, bobcats definitely are a predator to be dealt with, and they eat fawns. I'm not going to sit here and say that they don't eat calves, because I bet you they will eat a calf. I know they will eat sheep and goats, things of that nature. So they're just as much of an issue as coyotes are. So if you see them, man, blast them. And of course, the pelt is absolutely gorgeous as well. So everything within balance. So, hey, that's all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. But as always, get out there in the bush, support your small town Texas, and go Texas, baby.
Well, I hope the Bandits gave you an interesting episode that either entertained or educated you. Or better yet, both. Hell, I told them this podcasting thing looks harder to do than defeating Santa Anna. So if you would, please help them out by sharing it with all your like-minded friends to help the Bandits get the word out. And don't forget to check us out at feedbandit.com and grab some gear and apparel to support the cause of Texas. Remember, Texas, above all else, preserve the tradition, protect the legacy. Finally, as I said some time ago on the eve of the great battle, and I vigorously repeat here again, be men, be free men, that your children may bless their father's name. Well, fellow bandit, until next time.